Hello, Dad here. This is it's time for installment 2 of my thoughts on the blessings that God gives us. I wanted to start off first with one that was a non-missionary related event. Several years ago, my truck, we were backing out of its parking spot, and the passenger side front wheel just fell off the front axle. And it was a bit of a shock. We got to thinking about it and thought, wow, that's really actually quite a blessing, because that didn't happen on the highway. It happened in our yard at very low speeds. And it was just one of those things that at the time we recognized it as a blessing. Now I wanted to get back to my mission. There was an event that was pretty interesting. It's similar to what happened with the oil when I was cooking the chips. Excuse me. And there was in the new town of Peter Lee, there was a woman named Elizabeth who has decided to be baptized. And the baptismal font, the water heater, we found out once we got there the day of the baptism, was not working. So the font itself, the baptismal font, was full of cold water. Well, Elizabeth wanted to move forward. She was ready to accept Christ and live the things that she knew would be better for her. And we had our beginning of the services, our little prayer. And when it came time to step into the water, it wasn't cold. It was, again, like with that oil, it was just tepid. And it was a really cool, unique experience to see how God really is capable of making the elements do what he would like them to do. I shouldn't say make them do, but because that would take away from agency. But that God is capable of making such things happen. The other thing that I mentioned in the first video was an event that happened in Bridlington. My companion, Elder Campbell, and I were teaching just a really nice family. They were really good, and we'd taught them several discussions, and they were really kind of on the teetering edge of whether or not to alter their lives and their lifestyles to make it conform to what Christ asks us to do, which is really pretty simple stuff. But anyway, we were this one evening, the appointment, I believe we started about 7 or 7:30. And the discussion was really good. We were having a good time, lots of good points, lots of good discussion. It wasn't just a lecture. We were actually having a good talk with the whole family. And finally, it came time, our watches said 9 o'clock. All the clocks in the house said 9 o'clock. And we had to be home by 9:30. So we called it a night. And the streets, because it was a little town in northeast England, we didn't think too much about the streets being apparently a little bit darker and less occupied than normal. And as we were walking, Elder Campbell and I were talking about this discussion, and even though the family at that time wasn't ready to commit themselves to the lifestyle changes that would be beneficial to them, we were just really enjoying it. But we heard the clock in the village square, or the town square, started chiming. And we kind of counted along with it. And 7, 8, 9, and it kept going. 10, 11, 12. And we thought, holy moly, what's wrong with that? We checked our watches, and sure enough, our watches were just saying a little bit after 9. We were going by, I believe it was a jewelry store, and we looked in the window of the jewelry store to see if there might be a watch or a clock there. And it was also showing midnight, or a little after midnight. And Elder Campbell and I, we looked at each other, and we realized that for purposes of that discussion, God had altered time and space to allow us the opportunity to discuss these things with this family. It was really neat. There's so many things that happen all the time that I don't think we realize are blessings from God. Whether it's if you're working at a prison and somebody decides not to shank you that day. You never knew it, but still it's one of those blessings that maybe it wasn't just them or that inmate that decided not to shank you. Maybe there was some other external thoughts being placed into their head to help encourage them to not harm you. Or a thought or a feeling that a parent has regarding one of their children, or a spouse will have a thought or a feeling about their companion to help them. Maybe it's just a smile at somebody. Maybe it's somebody on the street that you just felt you needed to smile, say hello. You may have been a tool or an instrument in the hands of God to help somebody out, maybe save their life. Because maybe they just needed that one little kind thought, or that little bit of real quick personal attention to let them know that they are loved, that God loves them. And if we can realize how much God really does love us, even when we may not be aware of it, it'd be, I think, a much happier life. Anyway, that's thoughts for today. I'll have some other things I want to talk about in the future. Some hopefully interesting. I thank you for spending time with Dad.